Welcome back, friends. In this lesson we will learn what are the vectors and how to create our own free-form vectors using the pen tools. For this lesson, let's create a new file. Let's talk about the difference between the vector and raster images. In our initial lessons, we learned about resizing and resampling of images. Our pixel-based images can be resampled up and pixels are added to the images, or they can be resampled down by simply taking away the pixels. Now when it comes to vector shapes and vectors inside Photoshop, it is interesting that whether we are increasing the size or decreasing them in size, there is no loss of quality because vectors are mathematically driven. They are created by a series of mathematical algorithms as opposed to being resized using different methods of interpolations. Let's go ahead and look at the most basic way of creating vectors in Photoshop. We will be using this pen tool. The keyboard shortcut is P and the cursor looks like a pen nib. The pen tool creates a path. Now there are these three options: path, pixels and shape. In this lesson we will talk about path. The basic fundamental core element of a vector shape is a path. Now what is a path? Click once and click once more. Now we have drawn a path here. If we try to print this file, it will not print anything because paths are actually invisible. These little boxes on either end of this path are called the anchor points, and anchor points are what constitute a path. The anchor points also control the corners of the curves in a path. Let's continue to draw this path like so. Now we have these three path segments, 1, 2 and 3. We can see an anchor point at every turn, and this is the beginning of the path and this is the end of the path. The paths can be either closed or opened. This is an open path. We can close it. To close it, we need to go to this beginning anchor point. Now as soon as we hover over this point, we have this small circle beside our cursor. It means that if we click on this one, the path will be closed. We now have created our closed path, kind of a rectangular shape. It is a custom rectangle. Let's see what all can we do with this custom shape. Underneath the pen tool is this path selection tool. The keyboard shortcut is A. The path selection tool looks like a black arrow. If we click on our path, it will select all the anchor points as well as the segments. Now we can click and drag our path to any position, but we cannot select single anchor point or single segment. The path selection tool will select the complete path. To select the anchor points individually, there is another tool under it. It is called the direct selection tool. The keyboard shortcut is A. Shift A to toggle between the two selection tools. With direct selection tool selected, draw a marquee around an anchor, and now this is selected. This black box indicates that it has been selected. The rest of them are empty. Now we can drag and alter it like so. We can also select a segment. When we move the segment, both the anchor points connected by it are moving. Now let's switch back to our pen tool. If we want to add or delete some anchor points of a shape that we have already created, there are several tools under the pen tool: delete anchor point and add anchor point. The name suggests what they do, but to get access to these tools, add anchor or delete anchor point, we don't have to go to the pen tool every time. We can just check this auto add or delete on. With this option on, now notice what happens when we move our cursor on a section where there is no anchor point. There is a little plus sign next to our pen, and if we now click, we add an anchor point. To remove an anchor point, just hover over that point. There is this little minus sign beside our cursor. If we click here, this point is deleted. I'll delete this point rather. Now you may have noticed that this anchor point is a bit different. It has these two little dots on either side. I'll explain this in a while. Let's first take the path selection tool and delete this. Let's grab our pen tool. Last time we had drawn the corner anchor points. Those corners on the rectangle were pretty sharp and jagged, but we can also draw smooth curves with the pen tool. The technique to draw smooth curves is a bit different and needs a bit of practice. Let's click here and drag. Look what happens. These two little handles come out. These are called the control handles or Bezier handles. These handles control the curves. And now if we click and drag here, we have created a curve. Now the curve is determined by the angle and distance we are dragging, like so. Let's continue to click and drag to give it a shape. Now again we can click on the starting anchor point and close the curve. Let's now take our direct selection tool. We can now select and adjust any kind of the anchor points as well as the control handles to adjust the smoothness of the curve. Let's click this one and start moving. We can move the anchor point or we can adjust the handles, like so. If we click on a segment, we can move this segment and affect these two anchor points which are joining the segment. Only these control handles are moving, not the other ones. This is because this constraint part dragging is on. If we switch it off, now if we drag, the shape changes altogether. It's not constrained to only this segment. I'll switch it on again. Let's now see how to combine the curved path and corner path anchor points. We can do this by using this tool called Convert Point tool. With this tool selected, our cursor looks like a direct selection tool. But as soon as we bring it over an anchor point, it changes to this Convert Point cursor. If we now move and drag it, it will normally drag it. But if we hold down the Alt key and now drag, this handle is broken from this one. It is moving individually. We can now create a corner here. Same way, if we click on this one, hold Alt and move, only one of the handles is moving, not both. We have again created a corner here. We can perform this action with the direct selection tool as well. If we take the direct selection tool and select this point, and now if we hold Alt, we can make a corner, like so. So that is how we can convert an existing point. Let's delete this shape again. Let's grab the pen tool because I want to show you how to create both corner and curved anchor points while we are drawing our path. Let's click and drag some points. Now if we want the next point to be a corner one, just click, hold Alt, now drag. We have broken this control handle and we can give it another direction and create a corner, like so. Click a normal point here. I'll close the curve by holding Alt and making it a corner again. Cool. So you have seen that we can draw a path of any shape we want. Let's again take the path selection and delete it. Another feature of pen tool that I want to tell you is to enable the rubber band. Some people like it and some don't. I personally don't like it, but I'll tell you what it does. Let's take the pen tool and rubber band is right under this gear. Let's switch it on. Now when we click and drag our control handles and before clicking on the next point, we get this rubber band kind of thing. I'm not clicking on my mouse, I'm just moving the mouse to show you the rubber band. Now this rubber band gives us the preview of the direction in which our path is going to be drawn. It gives us kind of a visual indication of what exactly we are going to draw. But I'm not a very big fan of this, so I'll switch it off. Let's again delete it. Let's talk about another pen tool. It is right under the pen tool, the freeform pen tool. With this selected, we don't have to click and drag. This one just lets us draw like we draw with a pen or a pencil with a continuous flow. I'm just drawing with a continuous flow. I'm not clicking again and again. I just clicked once in the beginning and drawing like a pen, like so. Again, we can close the curve by coming to the beginning of the curve. It is now closed. Though we did not mess with any anchor points, if we take the direct selection tool and try to select it, we can see a lot of anchor points. The pen tool automatically created these anchor points based on the movement of our pen tool. Now that you know how to use a pen tool, I recommend you to practice a lot with it to get accustomed to handling these anchor points. It is very important to know how to operate the pen tool. That's all for this lesson, friends. See you in the next lesson.